Mm-hmm. It's 4:30 in the morning. It's 4:30 in the morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, YouTube. Shout out to the chat. This is your homegirl, Arabia Barbosa, 914, Westchester County, New York, coming to you with another live video. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. You know, you guys, I have something on my mind. I'm not going to talk about what's going on these YouTube streets. I'm not going to talk about. We got enough people talking about what's going on the YouTube streets. I'm going to talk about keeping an open mind. Keeping an open mind. Now, last year, no, not last year, but yeah, last year, I watched this one particular movie. And then I watched it again last night. And I remember reading the book about this story that happened in 1965, where a 16-year-old girl was murdered. A 16-year-old girl named Sylvia was murdered in 1965. And she wasn't murdered right away. It took her 3 months to pass away. When they found her body, she was located in the basement area of a house. And the house owner was a woman. First name Gertrude. Shout out to the chat. It took this woman 3 months to kill that young girl. That young girl was not given any food. She was humiliated physically, emotionally, sexually, all because the girl's parents decided to leave her and her younger sister at that woman's house. And it was agreed upon that the father would send $20 every week for these children's upkeep. The first payment came late. The woman didn't get mad with the man. She was mad with the father, but took her anger out on the daughters by beating them, physically assaulting them. Shout out to the chat. I'm trying to keep an open mind because I know that during the 1930s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, some parts of the 90s, it was acceptable for people to physically assault children. They even used the Bible to say that it's okay to assault your child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Come to find out, people was reading that Bible verse incorrectly. And let me say this other thing. Gertrude was a regular church goer. She was a regular church goer. And I started thinking to myself, I said, I got to keep an open mind. I got to start thinking to myself, Where did this concept of child abuse come from? And does child abuse sometimes lead to murder? And in most cases, it does. Some people say, well, Ray, you don't know what you're talking about. It's okay for us to discipline our children. It's okay for you to discipline your children or the children that you have in your care, but it's not okay for you to mistreat them. It's not okay for you to abuse them. It's not okay for you to humiliate them. It's not okay for you to strip away their sense of safety and security. It's not okay. This woman assaulted that young girl for 3 months. The neighbors knew about it. Other people in the neighborhood knew about it. Nobody opened the fucking mouth. Nobody said a word. Nobody said a goddamn thing. That young girl was a teenager, and she suffered for 3 months at this woman's hand. She was at this woman's mercy. This woman destroyed that young girl because she was jealous of that young girl. How many times have we heard stories about mothers being jealous of their daughters? How many times have we heard stories like this? This woman and this young girl I'm talking about, they were not related, though. They were not related. But we got this thing going on in our society where women that have problems with other women seem to be very monstrous towards each other. Certain women have the stuff that you wouldn't even think that they had. When I was living in New York, when I was growing up in New York, I was always under the impression, and I don't give a fuck. This is why I don't care about living in an apartment. I'd rather live in an apartment than in a house where it has an attic and it has a basement. Because those types of rooms, those types of spaces in your living quarters usually carry a lot of energy depending on what is happening in those areas. There's a lot of things going on in society, and I'm trying to keep an open mind. People that seem to be so fucking religious are the main perpetrators. They cause all the problems, all the issues. Shout out to the chat. That's what I was thinking about. And I was trying to keep an open mind. And I said, well, what happens to the soul of the person that was tortured? What happens to the soul of a person that is murdered? Where do they go? People talk about heaven and hell. There's only 2 places that these spirits can take, but in your same Bible, they took out the part where reincarnation was discussed. It was talked about. It was believed that there is a thing called reincarnation. I don't mean no harm. If there is a thing called reincarnation, I do not want to come back as a human. I'd rather come back as an animal, an owl, a wolf, a lion, a bear, a tiger, because it seems like humans don't live by certain laws. They don't respect certain systems of government, but animals do. Animals have to obey the laws that are set for them. They have no free will. We as humans, we that are made and we're so-called made in the image of God. If we are made in the image of God, why are we so weak? Why are we so ready to become a part of the 85%, the sheeple population of civilization, of society? I know that girl died a terrible death. I know she suffered before she left this earth. But how many more of us on this earth actually suffer and die? And where does the spirit go? And you're not going to make me believe no bullshit about there's only two places it can go, a heaven or hell. Because when my father was dying, he kept saying that he heard some music being played. And he said that there was a light that was present. And then he slipped away. He died after being in the hospital for quite some time. He died of lung cancer. So he suffered because he didn't take no morphine. He didn't take the pain medicine that they had for him. He wanted to feel the pain before he left this earth. Some people in my family were murdered. 2011. They suffered before they left this earth. Where does the souls of murder victims go? I'm not so concerned about what happens to you if you die in your sleep or if you die after suffering from a disease for a long period of time and there was some suffering, there was some things going on. I'm talking about what happens when the soul is ripped violently from the human body. Where do you go? Is there a such place as an in-between? Is there? Because I can remember having dreams where there's an in-between. There is no heaven. There is no hell. There's an in-between. The sun never sets. People never grow old. People don't have to eat in that place. But is that true for everyone? Because everyone have different beliefs. Some religions will cause you to doubt certain aspects of reality. That's why I'm not hooked up with no kind of religion. No Christian religion, no Jewish religion, no Islam, none of that foolishness. Because I know those religions were put in place to what? Divide people, oppress people, to enslave the minds of millions. That's what it is. That's what religion is. What is a true faith system? A true faith system is more freedom. There's more freedom. And people, when they hear me say faith system, they automatically think Santeria, voodoo, hoodoo, certain occult practices. I would rather be a part of that than of the Christian church, because I see what comes out of the Christian church. I see what comes out of the Jewish religion. I see what comes out of Islam. And I've been seeing it for 52 years. That young girl was murdered. It took that lady 3 months to get rid of this girl. They gave that woman life in prison, but she only served 20 years, and then she was granted parole. Society has changed since 1965, but it hasn't changed that much with their attitude about the dealings and the raising of children. And people got the wrong concept. They think that it's okay to bully someone that is younger than them, that is smaller than them, that doesn't have the physical strength. Because I keep seeing reports about different child abuse cases and how some of these children don't make it. And all of them are usually, in those cases, usually those children are murdered by either their parents or who has guardianship over the children. These children are not being murdered by regular everyday strangers. That's why I keep saying your biggest rival, your biggest enemy is not people in the street. It's people that's close to you. Your enemy, in most cases, in most marriages, most courting circumstances, dating circumstances, your biggest enemy, your biggest rival is not outside. They're not down the street. They're not on the street corner somewhere. Usually they're in your home. They're in your bedroom. They're in your bed sheets, and they're in your arms. We got a lot of problems in this society, in this world. I'd rather talk about that than talk about what's going on these YouTube streets. We already know what's going on. We saw what happened to that young man on social media, the one that was killed on the Facebook Live. We saw. That kind of stuff is becoming a reality. You could walk out your house and drop dead. You could be in your bed and not wake up. We understand that. But the high rates of murder has risen over the years. People going to schools, shooting the children in the schools. People going to churches, killing people in the church. Then you got your serial offenders. Shout out to the chat. And I was just thinking, because I remember when I was in prison, I remember the roommates they used to put me in the room with, and all of them, every last roommate I had when they released me from the belly of the beast and put me on the compound, every fucking roommate I had was a convicted killer. All of them. I didn't have any problems getting along with them. I didn't care about their crime or their situation. Only thing I gave a fuck is how they treated me. And I don't mean no harm. They treated me better than the people that raised me. Shout out to the chat. I received more support and love from certain women while I was incarcerated than I did from my own fucking family. And that still rings true. That's why I think about my times when I was incarcerated. Inmate number 221644 was my name for 6 years and 7 months. I went in at 22. I left at 28 years old, a few months short of my 29th birthday. And I don't mean no harm. I don't regret a day I did inside. I felt more safe and more free on the inside than I do on the outside, the so-called free world. Just like yesterday, I walked from my house downtown to get to that dispatch office, only to be told there is no jobs for today. We'll see you on Monday. Shout out to the chat. But going down that long dirt road or in that pathway to go is a dangerous situation. I should not have to be getting up 4:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning to walk anywhere. I didn't have to worry about that when I was incarcerated. I didn't have to worry about nothing. There was no rent. There was no bills. There was no groceries. There was nothing to get. I didn't have to pay taxes at the end of the year. I didn't have to file my income tax. Shout out to chat because there was none. I have more gray hairs now than what I did when I was in there. Shout out to the chat. Good morning, Miss Eve. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me acknowledge everyone that's in my chat. Tamika, good morning. Miss Eve, good morning. Thank you for coming in. Good morning. Happy Saturday. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Yeah, I just came in real quick because I had that on my mind. And I'm not a religious woman. I've never been a religious woman. Yes, I did grow up in the church. Yes, I did the usher work. Yes, I did sing on the choir. Yes, I did go to Bible study. Yes, I went to Sunday school. And it's taken some time to relieve myself of that belief system, to get away from all that. Because I know it still has a big influence on my life, but I'm going to start doing more content talking about what books I read or what kind of movies I've seen, how it relates to what's going on in real life, how some of the stuff is not too far-fetched. Just like that woman, Diane Boone, that murdered her children 10 years before Susan Smith murdered hers. She killed one of her children and shot the other two. They had tremendous injuries done to their body. It's same situation. Only thing is that this woman did not bury her children in the car in a lake. She buried them with bullets. Shout out to the chat. And I was just wondering, where does the spirits of these victims go? Now, I've seen some cases where the victim is blamed, just like they try to blame Mr. Stanley for his own death, even though it wasn't Mr. Stanley that was operating any equipment or driving any of the trucks. That was someone else that killed Mr. Stanley. And Mr. Stanley just happened to have alcohol in his system. But he was still blamed for his own death. Shout out to the chat. He was blamed. And I just had some things on my mind, and I said, well, let me do the video, and then, I can relax for today. I can listen to other people talk. I can listen to other people laugh. I can watch a movie. I can read a book. I can study my Swahili or my Spanish, because I'm thinking about going ahead and just brushing up on my Spanish. It's going to be one day Spanish, the next day Swahili. I try to mix them both together so I don't have to speak in English all the time. You know what I mean? There's a lot of studying with that. Once you read it and you got to write it down, you got to put it into memory. If you do that real good, then you're able to build your own sentences. It's the same way you would learn English. Same way. Same concept. Different day, just different ways of understanding. You know? It's not easy. Thinking of things to talk about or make content of, because in my world, in my eyes, everything is content. Everything is content. Everything. Just like I had cut my hair, not too long ago. That is even content. How do I go about doing it? What kind of clippers do I use? How often do I clean the blades? How often is everything oiled? Where do I put my clippers after I'm finished using them? Sweeping of the hair. Exposing of the, getting rid of the hair. Removing it. What happens, after that? Wash the hair, wash the loose hairs off the head, and grease the scalp. Keep the hairline crisp, if there is a hairline. Shout out to the chat. There is a hairline. I don't have alopecia. And I was always, because my father, he had a donut haircut, right? My father has a donut haircut. But my two brothers, they don't have donut haircuts. They got a full head of hair. And My nephews, they all have full heads of hair. None of their hair lines are receding. None of that is happening. They don't have male pattern baldness going on. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the chat. But yeah, I was looking at that movie and my soul became vexed because I remember watching that movie every year. Well, what's the name of that movie? The Girl Next Door. There's two versions of that crime that happened in 1965. And one of the movies is called The Girl Next Door. And the other one, I forget the name of the other movie, but it's circling around the same crime story I'm thinking about. And I don't mean no harm, you guys. When the woman went to prison, she became a den mother. The woman that killed that 16-year-old teenage girl. She became a den mother. A lot of people don't know what a den mother is. Nowadays, someone like her would not become a den mother. And the women don't strike out each other physically like the men do. See, if that was a man and he would have killed that young girl like that, the men would have handled it. They would have handled him. And it wouldn't have took long. But in the female institution, the women are not physically attacked like that, but they are shunned. No one deals with them. If you are a child murderer and you go to the penitentiary, a female penitentiary, you are shunned. No one does anything for you. Nobody associates with you. Everybody keeps their distance from you. And in some cases, those women are, how can I say it? They're treated in a way you would treat someone that has a very contagious disease. In other words, what I'm trying to say is they are not celebrated. Just as Susan Smith was not celebrated. The women in there that did have any dealings with her was always looking for some kind of financial gain. They was always doing it. Now, if they find out you got some money in your commissary, in your canteen account, oh yeah, they're going to be coming to you, telling you got to pay rent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they do that to you. If you are committed of child murder and you go to certain female prisons, you are considered an outcast. And in some cases, you have to pay something for being there. Especially if they find out you are a keeper of large sums of money. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. So it's some kind of extortion going on with that. I can't really go deep into it, but I know what I know. I know what I know. And those women, a child murderer is not a den mother. Not nowadays. Oh, you have to be in there for something else. You have to be in there for something else. It could be drug dealing, drug trafficking. It could be a murder of an adult person. It could be of being an embezzler, being a robber. Me, I was never a den mother. I was just a regular person when I came onto the compound. And like I said, they housed me with other women that were in there for some kind of manslaughter charge or some kind of murder charge. I never had any problems with them. It seems like I enjoyed being around them than I enjoyed being around the people that raised me. In other words, I was not treated terribly. I got more terrible treatment. Even now, I'm a grown adult. I'm 52 years old. I don't really have a close relationship with a lot of my family members. There's no closeness. And I keep it that way. When Birdman was here, Birdman dealt with certain individuals. He did them. I didn't. And whatever business he conducted with them, I really didn't get involved with. I let him deal with. He was the one that made the phone calls. He was the one that took me to wherever I needed to go to pick up certain monies or whatever at that time. He dealt with everything. Even when it was time for me to get a new state issued ID, Birdman dealt with that. When it was time to do certain grocery shopping, Birdman dealt with that. When there were certain things that needed to be done around the house and I was at work, Birdman dealt with that. He's no longer here. So now I have to do everything. And trust me, it is not easy. You got to be an octopus. And I don't mean no harm. Sometimes I'll be dialing his number. 843-708-36 and blank blank for the last two numbers. I know those numbers. I just called his number the other night. There's no answer. Shout out to the chat. So it is what it is. I'm out of here. I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. Have an awesome, safe weekend. I'm closing out the video. Nobody wants to hit the link. I understand it's early in the morning. I wouldn't want to hit no link neither. A shout out to the chat. And just try to enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your life. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat. I'm closing out this video. I'll see everyone later. Or perhaps I shall see you in someone else's chat. It might happen today. Peace. One.